Right.
Good evening, everybody. We'll start today's Tuesday, September 28th regular commission meeting. We'll start this evening with the Pledge of Allegiance. The first item tonight is our consent agenda. Commissioners, having had a chance to review everything.
I so move to pass.
Thank you, sir.
I will second that.
Thank you, ma'am. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. The first item of our regular agenda tonight is to receive a request from the LEAP, the Law Enforcement Advisory Panel Board, to be dissolved. Georgia?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, so my name is Georgia Burning, a longtime Newton resident. I am here as the chair of LEAP today. We submitted a proposal formally last week for your review. I do have it in front of me in case you guys have any questions. Essentially what we're wanting to do is dissolve the ordinance as it stands right now. We want to remove LEAP from underneath the City Commission's umbrella, and we will be moving as a subcommittee under the NCRJ Newton Community for Racial Justice. We feel like we will have a little more flexibility to work with a broader Newton community, potentially, past just Newton, Harvey County, surrounding areas. Also gives us a little more flexibility for fundraising, community support, interaction with police department, and so forth. So are there any questions about what we did submit?
I have a question. It says here the panelists come to the conclusion that we could better serve our community without direct ties. So are there issues that are outside of what you have been addressing that you are anticipating that you would be able to handle?
Sure. So we frequently, something that Lieutenant Mike Yoder has come to us with is, a citizen or a Newton resident or, anyone, that would be stopped by what they assume would be Newton Police Department. You're in Newton, you could get stopped by Newton Police Department, North Newton Police, a state trooper, you could be stopped by Harvey County Sheriff's Office. I mean, any number of, those local agencies. Right now, as we are under just the city's umbrella, we only hold a certain amount of sway with Newton Police. That's it. So if a person is, has a negative interaction or has questions about their interaction with law enforcement, we can only assist them really if it happens to be a stop by a Newton Police Department.
Have you had any pushback from any organizations, any of the law enforcement agencies that you named, or any other citizens to this move?
No, actually. Lieutenant Mike Yoder, he's a frequent, attendee at our meetings. He's very tied in with what we do. He is in full support and is very happy to see this separation so that we can, he hates telling people as much as we do that we can't help you because you weren't stopped by a Newton police officer,
Have you spoke with the other law enforcement agencies about this move and the potential increased interactions between the new LEAP subcommittee and those agencies?
That is on our list of to-do. Mm-hmm.
On item number 2,
Yes.
Under the current structure, it says to advise and assist the city manager and the chief of police on issues related to law enforcement, including community relations, police operations, educational programs, and other related matters. The way you're functioning now, are you making that part of what you're doing, and how will, as a city commissioner, I would be very interested in knowing when you put it under the other organization, how are you going to continue to perform that operation? like for you to give me examples of some of the things that you've done to fulfill item B under the old ordinance.
Sure. Right now, it's a little bit harder. In the midst of COVID and everything, our options have been very limited in what we can do just with community outreach. But previously, we did the Coffee with a Cop, smaller events, stuff like that. It was a little over a year ago that we did the, I forget the actual name of it, but the Newton Black Lives Matter, essentially, rally that happened at Centennial Park. Newton Police was very supportive in that, and we worked with them to, so that they still had a presence at the event, but that it was more of a controlled environment just due to the political issues going on at that time.
Is separating from the city of Newton the only way you could accomplish this?
Not necessarily, but we feel that it's important to separate. We feel like it does help citizens feel probably more comfortable coming to a group, where we have the power to, talk with the city police, directly. If someone were to have an issue, if they were to be stopped or have some sort of interaction that ended negatively, or they just had a bad experience, or they just had questions about it, we've heard that people would be more comfortable approaching an organization that isn't directly tied to the police department. Does that kind of make sense? So,
Right. I'm wondering if there needs to be some sort of a charter or something between each of the communities and to this new entity that says, a partnership or a cooperation agreement or something.
sure.
Maybe something along the lines of a memorandum of agreement or an MOA and an MOU, something like that. Similar to what we have now is, here are the duties that are laid out. And then it reminds me of a couple of years ago when we started the drug task force and we had that MOA where each community was going to participate.
Right.
Yes, so something similar to that. And maybe it would be something that we could draft up, and it might be something that the other communities might be willing to utilize. So you had something to go to them with and say, hey, here's what we do now. We're expanding our scope, and we would love for you to join us through this MOA process.
Sure.
And I could speak, Commissioner, to your question about point number 2, and they're advising the chief and the city manager. I know that this group has been invaluable to both Chief Dunleavy and I, especially in the last couple of years and the interesting political times we are living in, COVID aside. So I have been fortunate to be able to participate in a few of their meetings that were more daytime related. Typically, they oftentimes meet at the same time we're here. And so in the past, I hadn't always been able to, and I think the meeting times have flexed up due to COVID and people's, job responsibilities and those kind of things. But they've always been wonderful for me to just bounce an idea off of, or if I have a question or concern about a specific incident. And again, I don't mean to speak for you, Chief, but that's been my experiences, that they are very much open to any questions that I've ever had, or, hey, how do we do this? Or, hey, what's your best practice? Some feedback, like, we're thinking about doing this and trying this. How do you guys think that would be received? So for us, having this group either under the city or just available to us in any other, whether it's this other nonprofit, I would tell you from the city's perspective, our interaction and relationship is not going to change. We can definitely formalize it with an agreement, however that looks.
It's invaluable to the community, and I want to see it remain in some format and
Yes.
a formal format.
Agreed.
Chief?
It won't be on the online,
can't
so
do
you
it.
need to do it.
Oh, okay, I got you. In the last couple of years, we've achieved, you asked her a question, what have we been able to achieve in the last couple of years? Something they brought to our attention, there was no process for a complaint that a person that felt like they were unjustly stopped or accused of or whatever, and just not a very good interaction with our police officers. So now we've developed a complaint form that they can fill out online, drop in our mailbox in the water billing right outside. They don't have to have contact with the police department, make them feel better about feeling like they're being heard. We have several different layers of accountability for all of our officers, body cams, car cams. We have GPS units. We have a variety of different ways that we can account for our officers at any given time. Excuse me. A lot of the other communities don't have that, and I think that's what they're looking for, is more accountability, not just in a Newton local area, Newton, City of Newton, which we've already been working hard. We have a really robust policy manual that we developed 2 years ago. And after last year, we shared our use of force policy that we were already in line with what other communities are already facing, those challenges already. So we've already taken many steps well before, even last year, in its tragic development that all that involved. But so to say, they have worked good. We've had Lieutenant Yoder as our liaison for the LEAP panel, which is, he readily wants to be involved. We want to keep that dialogue going. So no matter if whether we keep LEAP or not keep LEAP, have the Newton Community for Racial Justice, if that's the group that we'd rather go with, I'm good with that. We don't necessarily need an ordinance to stay involved. I assure you, I promise you, we will stay involved at every level, because that's the key to any relationship, really, is the communication. Without that, it'll take a nosedive, and that's not where we want to go. Sure. I think we've bettered ourselves being involved with LEAP in the last couple of years for sure, and I don't want to digress. I'd rather progress. So I hope that helps you, but we'll follow your guide. If you want us to stay with LEAP, well, absolutely, we will stay with LEAP, and we will be as involved as they would like us to be.
I have a couple questions. How are LEAP members picked now? Are they appointed by the commission, or?
Yes.
They are appointed by the commission. We prefer that we are able to meet with the members a few different times before they're appointed, just so we can kind of get a better idea of their values and make sure that fits the
So,
group.
I mean, one concern that I have that was, and again, brought to me by a citizen, and it is valid, and I think after they presented it to me, it made sense, was that the city dissolving the ordinance, and then LEAP essentially dissolving out of that, is that it no longer allows the city commissioners to have any kind of voice in it, which I think is important, considering that the city commission is elected by the citizens of the community. And our city, I feel like our city is big enough, our PD is big enough, that we benefit from having an organization that works just with our police department. And I can appreciate what Chief Dunleavy said and the continued desire to work with it, but I just feel like we're giving up something that currently is, I mean, from my understanding, is working well. But if, I don't know, I hope that makes sense.
It does. It does.
I mean, I don't know. I know Mr. and Mrs. Lee out there that's on and good friends of mine on the NCRJ, but that's the only people I know on it. Mm-hmm. And I feel like, you know, being elected is worthy of the calling of making sure we know who's helping run in other areas of our city. And if that's something that we're giving up, but we're agreeing to work with as other organizations, I really don't know them. I don't know who they are. That's my reservations with giving it up. I can appreciate you guys wanting to work with other communities, or at least you and whoever else may be on the board. But I feel like if other people want to go work with NCRJ, assuming most of you probably work with both, that's great. But I just have personal concerns about giving up LEAP, in a sense that Newton, I feel like we need our own law enforcement advisory panel to keep working with our
that's exactly
PD.
how we would still be operating.
Sure.
I mean, we would still be, doing all the same functions that we currently do. We would just like a little more flexibility to work for the citizens versus working for the police department.
So we could establish some metrics that says, you know, a success post-separation we would still be hitting these items within our community, and nothing says that we couldn't stand up a new law enforcement advisory panel in the future if we found something to be lacking. Sure. I found interesting, one of the things was the actual financial support, the ability to pursue grants, and then therefore have the funding to do the outreach and other things that you're not able to do today. What's that gap look like?
Quite honestly, I don't know. I apologize. I've only recently been elected as chair here for LEAP, so I'm not exactly sure what that number looks like. Mostly we would like to separate the money that we receive from the city. We would like it to be more community funded.
Is there a way to do both?
Right.
Is there a way for them to feel like that they have a voice and a direct link with the other law enforcement agencies and still that we can, as Clint said, we can have some sort of, I don't want to say control, but a say. Is there a way to do both?
Yeah, it's certainly an option. We would have to obviously be in discussions with those other municipalities or law enforcement groups to see if there would be an agreement. And, you know, taking the request tonight, I don't think you need to land on action, but we can surely take all this feedback that you've given us and come back with a memo. And, of course, the option to repeal the ordinance could be the first one, and all these other things that you're discussing, for sure.
Yeah, my line of questioning, the value is tremendous. I see tremendous value. I think we'll be better commissioners if we communicate. And apparently it's going pretty good right now because we never hear anything about your deal or unless the sky's falling, you know. But in any event, I think any way that we end up, I would invite you guys to maybe send us a report every 3 months or something like that. I want to know if somebody perceives something to be a problem. As a commissioner, I like having stuff like that on my radar. I'm real apt to call you and say, hey, can you tell me more about this? Because since we're responsible ultimately for the actions of the police department, I think it's important that if we do have problems, that we're made aware of it. And I think that brings a lot more value to the process. I really don't have any problem. I totally understand how you might have a hard time getting some people to come to you with a problem if they feel like you have to come directly back to the city and figure. I think throwing all that stuff in the hat, I would urge you to come back with what's the best way that we can get good information, that you can get the people on there that you want. There's got to be, you know, somewhere in between that gets people comfortable with the process, because if people are afraid to come to you, then, you know, it just doesn't work as well.
Right.
But you guys you're doing a great, you're fulfilling a great need.
Yes.
Yeah, well, and bless you, Georgia, for just taking over as the chair and then having to deal with this. So I feel like one thing I feel like, and Mr. Lee, you might be able to address this as well. I feel like we're not just dissolving LEAP, we're also giving permission to NCRJ to have that voice. And so I don't know, I mean, I would like to know what the mission, the vision, I don't know if sitting down to have just a small workshop before we take formal action on it is beneficial to us. I mean, we're placing a lot of care into the hands of people that most of us probably don't know. That's my reservation.
Right, I understand that. One of the big concerns from NCRJ's point of view, Rod, is what you were talking about. What you may not hear is from time to time, this isn't all the time, but from time to time we do hear of people who are afraid to put in a complaint because it's going to the police department, and so they're feeling as though the police department is not going to pay any attention to that. What we have seen with LEAP is certainly not true of that. We know that. But the perception is that, that the police department isn't going to always react. The other really important thing is our hands are kind of tied right now when it comes to the other municipalities. And if you're stopped by the Bethel police, if you're stopped by North Newton, you know, to the person that gets stopped, it's just the police stopped me. Well, we need to know which ones, and then we need to be able to go and talk with them as well.
Now, your hands are tied with NCRJ or with LEAP?
Our hands are tied with LEAP,
Okay.
and maybe tied with NCRJ if we're not able to get those partnerships, relationships going. I mean, that's what we've got to work on.
Okay.
The one thing that I've got to say, working with the Newton Police Department has been, you know, my wife's been a part of LEAP for a number of years. So we've been aware of how the police department itself here in Newton has worked with LEAP. The work that you guys have done has been really good. We're really happy. As a matter of fact, we want to kind of say to the other communities, guys, This is what this needs to look like. So that's kind of how we want to get this going with all of the communities that are nearby. And then continue to work on making it better, making it easier, and making it appear to those who have a complaint that, yeah, you can go to this group and you can complain and you can get that complaint taken care of. Someone's going to look at it, they're going to get back with you and all of that. But again, you know, I think one of the things we talked about, you mentioned was being able to put the complaint in the mailbox. I mean, that's huge, as opposed to if I have a complaint about the police department, I've got to go to the police department.
Or show up here and say it or something, yeah.
Yeah, that's just, you know, it's, people feel they've been defeated before they started.
That's fair.
I think this can work.
Oh, I do too. You just got to figure out the best way.
If I could make just a quick observation to Mr. Lee's point, one of the reasons that these types of advisory panels are able to form and provide the actual advisory capacities that they do is through state statute. They are authorized by statute and they must be under the auspice of the local law enforcement agency. So therefore, they are, by statutory reasons, also tied just to Newton. And, you know, Chris and I were over here talking about, I was trying to refresh my memory on the statute. I couldn't recall it at the moment, but you know, that doesn't mean that it can't still work. We might be able to do an interlocal agreement. I mean, like we talked about an MOA. So I guess my suggestion would be is they just wanted to, these two groups wanted to give you their, you know, their presentation and their request for your consideration this evening. Perhaps we can work with both groups and schedule, like you said, a joint work session where we could, you know, Chris and I can look into it a little more and with Chief's assistance, and we can see what all the options might entail, and then maybe we could bring that back to you and just have it as a discussion point at a work session in the near future.
Yeah, I
Would
think
everybody be amenable to that?
Yeah.
Certainly, we'd be amenable to it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be
And we'll
out of
find a
town
time that'll work for everybody.
Yeah, I'll be out of town for a few weeks, but
Okay,
other than that, we can come.
we'll make it happen. We'll find a time that works. That'll give us time to do some
Thank you.
research, so.
Georgia, thank you as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you all very much. We really appreciate you and everything you do and your service to the community.
Of course, thank you.
All right, next item this evening is CDBG CV3 Business Grant Awards. Zach?
This is Crystal Hansen, or Hennon with Ranson Financial. I about called you Crystal Ranson. We had over 30 businesses apply for the CDBG CV3 Newton Business Grant Award, and 24 of them made the cut. I want to thank Crystal, I want to thank everybody involved, the commissioners, the chamber, everybody, staff who got the word out, ran applications to people. We got quite a few. So here's our cat herder. Crystal, as I like to say, 24 businesses. If we evened it out, across the board recommendation is an even award amount of $6,250. So if that's amenable to you, to the commission, we would take a motion. We would need to read all the businesses once and just say they are awarded the amount, or you can kind of mix and match yourself. It's entirely up to you.
I just have two questions for you, Zach, and I don't want to, who's Faith and Fitness? Is that supposed to be Faith and Life?
Faith and Fitness, no, they are a home occupation.
Oh, okay.
They're a wellness program. So there were other home occupations were allowed to apply
Okay,
as
I just
well.
hadn't heard of them, so I didn't know if it was a typo. Thank you.
They're over at the rec center? Okay.
And the Y.
Oh, and the Y, okay.
Okay.
Well, there it is.
Cool. So you need a motion then?
So we,
So for, yeah, I think what we're going to need is
can we
for your
have Zach read
convenience.
the names?
It's up to you, Zachary. Would you like to read the names?
Sure.
As long as that's acceptable for CDBG rules. Okay.
Great.
So they're on your screen. We'll follow along.
We have Shannon Lynn Reinhardt Cutting Company, Fry's Wood Restoration LLC, I believe that's Sue's CDB Relief LLC, Prairie Market and Deli, Acapulco Newton, Kiko's Cups LLC, Best Pest Control, Custom Cuts Garage LLC, Wild Prairie Event Center, Dwayne Paul's PA, Gainer Electric Incorporated, Faith and Fitness, Express Wellness, Williams Medical Group Practice, Kansas Publishing Ventures, Harvey County Now, Anderson Retail Liquors, Gertie's 12 Brew, Anderson Office Supply, Genova Italian Restaurant, Curtis C's, Carol's Skincare Center, The Bread Basket, Moyo Clothing, and Metcalf Sisters Antiques.
So at this time, Commissioners, do we have a motion?
I would make the motion that we approve payment of $62.50 for each one of those.
I would second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. All righty. Next item is to consider a request to close Main Street from 5th to 7th Street. Denise?
Yes, thank you. This is a request that is in your packet. It is for the Halloween walk from being sponsored by the Lions Club, and they want to close on Sunday, October 31st from 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock, from 5th Street to 7th Street. And staff has looked at this and is okay with it.
Very good. Thank you. Hearing that, you need a motion on that, right?
Correct.
All right. Do we
I
have a
move
motion?
that we accept that request.
Thank you, Commissioner. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Awesome. Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Next item is to consider an ordinance establishing a land banking program in Newton for the recovery and redevelopment of distressed properties. Zach and Chris are going to tag team this one.
Another long walk. I'll kind of go from the script here, and then I'll answer any general questions. How does land banking work? Well, first off, I guess I should start with the Choose Newton Community Development Commission has given a unanimous recommendation to adopt the land bank. Land banks are designed to acquire and maintain problem properties and then transfer them back to responsible ownership and productive use in accordance with local land use goals, priorities, and creating a more efficient and effective system to eliminate blight. In order to accomplish these tasks, land banks are granted special powers and legal authority pursuant to state enabling statutes. We want to stress that the land bank is not a silver bullet for communities struggling with blight. Through land banks, though land banks are uniquely designed to help reduce problem properties, the policies, priorities, and activities of a land bank must complement other community strategies and activities such as strategic code enforcement, smart planning, and community development, and an effective tax collection and enforcement. Land bank abilities, you can acquire blighted properties, abate their special assessments and back taxes, sort through title and ownership issues, maintain the properties, and then sell or transfer the property to a developer or nonprofit that will bring a new life to it. I think you guys have seen here lately with condemned properties and blighted properties that it is a kind of an issue here in Newton, and we would like to help address that, and this is a great tool to do that. It could help eliminate a lot of the steps in between to getting it from, a lot of these distressed properties, we don't know who the owners are or how, if they're behind in taxes, they just maybe don't even know what to do with the property. So this just gives them an avenue. I just had Ken Hall contact me with Habitat for Humanity, and we don't own the lot that we just demolished the house on, and all we're going to do is put a lien on the property where the land bank might have been able to help clean up the title, find the ownership, and get it donated over and to the community, community development stuff like Habitat for Humanity. I would stand for any questions that you may have.
So one of the things, Zach, if I might just add, we have talked about this in the past about how we have properties in a community who our neighbors get frustrated with because they seem to take forever to need to go through the court process. And those are mandatory statutory steps. Having a land bank in place is an additional option where those property owners could donate the property to the land bank and therefore enhance the process and speed it up quite a bit. It also helps get the properties back into private ownership for redevelopment. Oftentimes those properties, as you know, I know we had one a couple of years ago that had a fire and the roof has collapsed over time, so the house isn't habitable, and we don't know all the specifics. Perhaps it was an older home, and if they didn't have a mortgage on it, there's a good chance they didn't have insurance on the home. So maybe they don't have the means to remediate that property. So we are hopeful that this is, again, as Zach noted, just one more tool in our development and redevelopment box that will really help especially the older parts of our community. Now, land banks can also be used for green space.
Green space, most definitely.
Yep. So, if we have either platted property or a property owner who wants to donate a large chunk of it, we could plat it for residential properties. Oftentimes, land banks are funded through maybe some seed money from the local jurisdiction, or maybe it could be grant money. Oftentimes, CDBG at the state and federal level has money that can fund the particulars of the types of programs and processes that the land bank would specifically be helping to address. Also, the lots can be sold. So if we have a new lot, let's say we have a residential development or a developer in town who wanted to donate multiple lots that are undeveloped at the time, we can sell those lots. The money stays with the land bank and can be parlayed into things like paying for infrastructure for maybe the next step of a development. So again, this is just another tool that we have. Many communities, smaller and larger than us, have these and have been working on them for quite some time. So we just feel like watching the success of those other programs, we feel like we've learned from watching them, and we are, again, as Zach noted, the Choose Newton Community Development Commission was hopeful that you would also agree that they feel like this is a great tool for our community.
Well, I think it's a really good tool, especially on the infill applications and getting those into the tax base again and marketable. I spent a lot of time out on the internet looking at the different ordinances that all the different communities in Kansas have enacted for this and everything. And can you clarify why our ordinance has a compensation in it where almost all the other ones do not?
That is language from the statute. We actually have two provisions, and I believe that's a may in there. Two things on that. First, the budget needs to be approved by the city commission. And two, I think it's just a question in terms of how the land bank would be staffed. So obviously, Zach would be involved, I would be involved, Donna, Kelly, Suzanne, I mean, all the city employees are going to be involved in this. So obviously, we're not compensated by the land bank, we'd be compensated by the city. But it does give certain powers for specifically, A, the city manager to assign staff, and also the land bank to officers or agents. And I think that could be contractual type basis too. If there's a property maybe that needs some work done, that they could do that. But the budget does have to be approved by the city commission.
Okay, because the language is so different than all the other ordinances out there that I was really curious why it was there, because almost all of them just flat strike out any compensation.
And just so we're certain, it's not compensation for the board members, but it would be for agents and officers supporting the cause, correct?
Well, I think maybe ours needs to be clarified to make sure that that's how it reads.
No problem.
And also,
It's not in our ordinance, but typically what is in ordinances says that specifically, members of the Board of Trustees shall receive no compensation, but shall be paid for their actual and necessary expenses. Our draft ordinance doesn't have that language.
Right. That is the statutory language that you're quoting. I thought it was in the ordinance, and we're happy to clean that up for sure.
and it was suggested that the Community Development Commission, you all appoint those members, but again, similar to the LEAP situation, there is that distance of, if the Community Development Commission served, as the land bank board as well, and again, without compensation, just as they do as the Choose Newton Commissioner. We also thought it was nice to have that separation so that it doesn't look like it's favoritism in some way. Like the city commission says, well, that property is up the street from me, and I would love it if, Joe Smith, my good friend, got a hold of it. So, we're trying to create that distance and separation between the governing body and the administration of the bank, even though it will be under the city's auspice. Does that make sense?
Yes.
How does the county play into this? Because it talked in here about tax foreclosure process and...
Well, by state statute, then we would be able to wash the taxes, the tax bill, or
So
any back taxes, the county would have to adhere to the state statute.
Basically, they're forgiven, is
Right.
kind of the way that it works. So that is revenue that is lost. However, if they're already several years behind to the point where they're getting to that tax auction, we would hope that we can start intervening ahead of that time and the land bank can get in before it gets to that point.
Right.
This is not going to be city staff standing on the steps of the courthouse betting
Right.
at a sheriff's auction for properties. This is trying to circumvent that from getting to that point.
And that applies to general property taxes. Specials for public improvements are essentially told you don't have to make the payment while the land bank holds it, but that part is not forgiven.
And then those come due when the land bank sells it, and out of the proceeds, the land bank has to pay arrears.
They do not have to, but that can be negotiated between the land bank and the purchaser.
Okay. So one of the parties has to pay it.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, but it may not be a lump sum, it could be just frozen. And then when it's back in private hands, the special payments could be continued again, if that makes sense, annually.
So now, if we would pass an ordinance tonight, can we do that provided that you change that language?
I always feel more comfortable with you seeing the exact
Just wait-
text.
just
unless,
wait
Zach,
for
unless
2
there's
weeks.
Any time urgency on this?
No, there's no time urgency at all.
Yeah, you could get us.
I would
that
rather
line.
you see it.
Then-
Okay, rather than that.
Yeah, then let's wait a couple.
No problem. If you have any other questions in the room, please let me know. We'll come back with a revised ordinance.
Normally, I would have had those questions to you
No
ahead
problem.
of this meeting. I got stacked up
problem.
and didn't stumble on that
I
until.
understand that
My bad.
completely.
So,
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions before I leave the podium?
all right, thank you, Zach. All righty. I need a motion.
Yes. If we may, Mayor, we would like for the commission to please take up 2 new items of business this evening. One is to receive a written request from the City of Wichita City Clerk to approve a resolution, and the other is for a short executive session for attorney-client privilege. So we would need a motion from the bench, please, first to take up the new items of business.
I move that we take up the new items of business.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries.
Thank you very much.
So from an order of business, if we could, let's go ahead and do the City of Wichita one, and then probably the Citizens Forum, and then we're not going to have any binding action off of the executive session, so if we'll go in that order.
Perfect.
Excellent. As Kelly mentioned, this is a request from the City of Wichita, who is facilitating the issuance of healthcare facility revenue bonds. This has to do with Presbyterian Manors, Inc., which is based out of Wichita, who has facilities throughout Kansas and Missouri. And again, this isn't a city bond issue. I mean, it's a city bond issue through Wichita on the revenue bonds. It's not City of Newton. However, because they have facilities located in Newton, we have the opportunity to be heard on it. I think you've seen this item a few times maybe before. You have 3 options, essentially. You can either approve it, take no action, in which case after 7 days it's deemed approved, or you could object. From my point of view, there's no harm in this going through. We're simply just asking for an okay. I would support a motion to approve. If you feel more comfortable just receiving it and taking no action, that's also appropriate. But like I said, it'll be deemed approval in 7 days.
And if you are comfortable with it, I know that City Manager Layton would appreciate not waiting. If we're comfortable with it and not having any questions or need to object, I think that City of Wichita would appreciate that courtesy to expedite the process.
Denise could then fill out the form now and get it to him in the morning as opposed to waiting the 7 days. And
I
that's a
think
good
everyone
point.
can appreciate action rather than inaction.
Right.
Any
But
questions?
again, not Newton bonds, not general obligation bonds.
Doesn't go
Just-
against our bonding authority.
Right, exactly.
Well, I'll make a motion that we approve ordinance number,
Well, and it's just
Oh.
approve the Wichita resolution number
oh, it's not, yeah,
21
not an ordinance.
360.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, well, then I'll make a motion that we receive the written request from the Wichita City Clerk to approve resolution 21-360. Okay.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second that.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. I think at this point, thank you, sir. At this point, we'll go ahead and move to Citizens Forum. Mr. Ortiz, if you would. Please approach and state your address, please.
6530 South Kansas Road. And do I need to say my name or I'm good?
You're good.
Okay, thank you. Well, I think sometimes people come in just to complain to you guys. And so I just wanted to come in with like an awesome story. I got a phone call that a water main was broke, and probably 20 minutes later, I'd gotten with the people and one of our principals at one of our buildings, and they said, the city's already on it. And I was like, is there anything we could do? Well, we'll let you know. And I didn't hear anything for about 2 hours. I called back. They said, no, they're good. They got us up. We're ready to go. So just wanted to say thank you guys for your performance and being on top of things. It's amazing what I'm seeing here and the energy that's coming out of this team here. So thank you guys for all you do. The services are amazing. And I know a bunch of kids appreciated that. So thank you guys.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. We do have an awesome team.
If you would please let Suzanne know.
I will do that.
Thank you. Awesome. Pam Stevens?
Evening, Commissioners. I'm here to invite you to one of our favorite events that's happening Thursday night. Hopefully, there's rain or storms in the forecast. We'll know officially tomorrow kind of what that looks like. We're working with emergency management, and they told me in the morning we'll have a better picture of what this looks like. So we're keeping our fingers crossed that it won't rain it out, since we were unable to have it last year. So it's been a challenging year, I will let you know. Booths will be down for a multiple of reasons. Some of my vendors have COVID. Some sold their trailers because there were no events for 18 months. A lot of my businesses can't find enough volunteers to staff their booths, and that's been a big issue this year, which is very surprising, but it will still go on. We have over 40-some food booths, and it'll be a great event. We're just hoping no rain. So I got maps here for you officially, so you can start to pick out what foods you want and get your plans set for tomorrow night.
Thank you, Pam. Thank you.
You got to ration yourself because there's so much good food. You have to go in with a strategy.
It's all about pacing.
That's right.
Well, you having a meeting with emergency management, and I'll have a meeting with God and ask for no rain, so fair?
The big emergency manager.
No pressure, Clint.
I was really looking forward to this Thursday night, so yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Take that into consideration.
Thank you, Pam.
Thank you, Pam.
All righty. So before we go into executive session, you want to go around the horn?
Sure.
Clint?
you know what? I don't have anything.
Wow. That's,
You
I would
okay?
comment again on the beautiful flowers outside, but I said that 2 weeks ago. I noticed them again when I came in tonight, just how beautiful the flowers
they
are out
are.
front.
I wish my yard looked
I stopped and
like
took a picture of them.
that. This last week, I had the pleasure of going to Walton School and meeting with a bunch of third graders, because they were really interested in what a city commissioner does. And amazingly, I'm kind of looking to see how many viewers we have on here. I think I have some third graders on there right now, because I told them to be watching tonight. And I want to give a shout out to the third graders from Walton Elementary. And I told them I'd read some of the questions that they gave me, because they pretty much grilled me for about 30 minutes or so. But anyway, one of the questions that was interesting is they said, "Are you the boss of the commission?" So I said no, and I explained to him that Mayor Stennett, he ran the meetings, and if there was a real boss there, it had to be Rich Stennett. So
Kelly.
how do you become mayor then, was the next question. So I had to explain that process to him. What do you do as a commissioner? And that took a little while to explain. They will vote someday, so, you know, I want them to think that we do something. How many hours do you work as a commissioner? What do you do for your real job? And I said, well, being a commissioner's a real job too, even though we only make a couple $100 a month. So how hard is your commissioner job? And I had to ask them to clarify that, because it can be real hard, but it isn't hard all the time. How hard is it to make choices? And I told them about the coin toss that we do most of the time. Do people disagree with you a lot? And I said, no, they usually just disagree with Commissioner McBroom. So, but the most popular question was, how old do you have to be to become a commissioner? And actually, I didn't know the answer to that. I told them I thought perhaps 18.
It was 18, yeah.
18, so that was a pretty good guess.
That's a good
But I did want to note that nobody asked me how old was too old to be a commissioner, so I was thankful that they were thinking on the younger end of that spectrum. So anyway, it was a great experience talking to them. I've been doing it every year since I've been a commissioner, and it really is fun to look at the eyes, look at a commissioner's job through the eyes of a third grader. So anyway, shout out to the third graders.
I have had the pleasure of also speaking to some of these classes over the last few years, sometimes with you all, and sometimes just like, what's the difference? What does the mayor do versus what does the city manager do? I think my all-time favorite, though, I think was last year, Mayor Kane and I were visiting in this room, I think, or was it 2 years ago, sir? I can't recall now, with a group of third or fourth graders, and we said, so when you grow up, why would you want for Newton to still be your hometown? Like, what's going to make you want to either go off, see the world, and come back here, raise your kids here? And I'm trying to recall, I think they said free Corvettes for everyone. I was like, all right, we will take that into consideration. Thank you for the advisement. So, yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Chris?
No, sir.
Donna?
No, thanks. One of the questions that the children asked when I spoke to them here, in both years, was, are you going to be running for president? Because they thought just in a government office, the next step you might take would be to run, and they were serious about it when they asked. I was just, I tried not to laugh out loud. I smiled, but inside I was laughing because I thought that was so innocent. I mean, they really meant what they were asking. And then, I know I say this every time, but I thoroughly mean it as if it was the first time I was saying it. I thank the staff for all that you do for us. And I thank our first responders. Thank you for being here. Thank you for what you do every day. It's much appreciated. We pray for you. We listen when you go by. So thank you.
Yeah, it always brings a smile to me thinking about those third graders because, you know, in a sense, all of us are still third graders, fourth graders, fifth graders at heart. And I still want to have, and I think we all should have that curiosity and that intense yearning to continue to push our brains to learn new things and to be flexible and to just be a team in the world we live. So that's all I have.
Well, I had the joy, first and foremost. Hello, Miss Bronke's class. I got to meet with the third graders over at Sunset today, and they put you through the ringer, but it's pretty great. I think the one that they wanted the most was pets. Boy, they sure wanted to know about pets. They were not happy that we closed the pool already. It should be open. It should be open year-round, they felt. They asked me about my favorite car, so they're in tune with the cars. They wanted to know how old I was and all of that. But boy, those kids are really curious, and it's great. Yep. Thanks to the Convention Bureau, I was able to give them all the new walking and coloring and activity book. And I mean, the room about fell apart when that happened because they got something free, and they were super happy about it and everything. So if we could just bottle that energy and everybody take a shot of that each morning to start your day, it'd be really, really great. But our future is good, people. Those kids are going to build it for us. So with that, can we get a motion for the executive session?
Can we please have 10 minutes?
Okay.
I move that the city commission recess into executive session to conduct discussions regarding an industrial prospect. A justification for closing the meeting is to discuss data relating to the financial affairs or trade secrets of corporations, partnerships, trusts, and individual proprietorships. The time and place at which the open meeting shall resume are 7:58, right here in the city commission chambers.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries.
And just for the benefit of the audience, no binding action will be taken. They will just return and adjourn the meeting. So you're welcome to stay or go as you'd like.
Officially.
Officially.
Yeah, she's been cool.
That's good. Is your family going? Y'all,
Anyway.
you have some friends there?
We go back to 18.
Having returned from our executive session where no binding action was taken, this meeting is hereby adjourned.